Ooh, okie dokie, we're live. Wow. Well, it's what day is it? I forgot. My God. It's Wednesday, and here I am in sunny Melbourne. Well, no, it's not sunny. It's been raining all morning, but it's nice to be back in Melbourne. We've just had an amazing. Actually, the last 24 hours have been kind of remarkable. One of our partners, which is a company called Transmit Security, and if you haven't had a look at them yet, go and have a look at them. They raised actually the largest Series A funding round ever for a cybersecurity company. Very, very, very sexy, very cool company that does a whole lot of biometrics on your web app and all that sort of stuff. So we've built this new platform which you can log into, app.meetmagic.org, and you'll basically be able to log in. And once you've gone through the process once, you'll be able to log in on any device that you've got onto the meetmagic platform, use your face or your finger or whatever biometrics you've got. I don't know, maybe you've got bum reader or something, but you can read literally anything that you've got on your PC or your Mac or your phone, because all the devices today recognize your face, and that's probably the best form of security. I chose that because everyone was sending out these passwords and two-factor authentication stuff. Things were just going missing. These 2FA codes were ending up in junk and all this sort of stuff. And people were saying, where's the code? I can't get in. And so we built this platform, and we're using these magic links, ironically enough, which just weren't working. So we had a lunch down here with Transmit and a few execs who turned up, and it was just amazing conversation. And I think the one thing that's clear is obviously cybersecurity is a big deal right now, but making the customer experience much better is also very, very important. And that's something that we chose to do that. And then, oh God, get this. So when I first started this company in 2017, came up with the idea and the concept. I came down to Melbourne, and I was with I came to a conference, and it was an AI conference sponsored by the government. And I met a guy there called Adrian Stagg, who was the CIO of Save the Children at the time. And because I was in Melbourne here, Adrian is now the CIO of bugger me, I forgot the name of the company, but it's a big consulting firm. But they invited me, or Adrian invited me to come in and present to his entire team. And this for me was kind of the first time I've ever done this. McGrath-Nicol, here we go, a bit of a brain fart there, but McGrath-Nicol. So Adrian's the CIO of McGrath-Nicol, and we came down, and I got to present the whole meetmagic story to the whole of the IT team, national IT team. And honestly, it was the first time I've ever done it, and I've walked away buzzing. And you can probably still see the energy in my face here. It's been one of those mornings, and now we've got another great conversation to have, because I'm about to introduce one of our partners. And when you see who they are, I got really excited, because when you get a startup and you're getting a startup off the ground, when you hear of these types of companies that are interested in coming to work with you, I got really excited, because they're a big, massive global company, and they loved it. And so I'm going to introduce Sean Liesegang. I hope I've got his name pronounced properly. Probably should have even checked with Sean, poor bugger. But Sean is a director of a company called Rapidmation, which are partners with one of the biggest tech companies for integration and customer and digital and transformation, called Rapidmation. And Rapidmation have been with us, I think, almost since we started, which is, as a startup, to get your repeat customers. Not only to get a repeat customer, that's great, but to have Sean and the Rapidmation team want to come and partner with us, that just kind of blows me away. So let me introduce Sean, and we're going to have a quick chinwag about the experience. We've actually not rehearsed this. I've got no script, nothing. I'm in an office in Melbourne, actually in the hotel next to 80 Collins. So if anyone's around 80 Collins for the next few hours, stick your head in, come have a cup of coffee. Sean.
Carl, awesome. Thanks.
Mate, honestly, I wasn't joking about that whole excitement thing. Just tell everybody about UiPath and the partnership that you got with them, because it's huge.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. So, well, firstly, thanks for having me on. I've watched a lot of your lives, so it's great to finally be here with you on one. And as you said, right, zero rehearsing. So let's go a bit off piste and have a good chat. But yeah, so maybe for people that may not be familiar with us, we're a company called Rapidmation. We do something called intelligent automation, which I'm sure we'll get into. But really, what we did is we teamed up with one of our key technology partners, a company called UiPath, on this meetmagic initiative. For maybe some of the audience that may not be familiar with UiPath, UiPath is a global software company. They're the market-leading business process automation platform, and it's really a platform that allows you to automate all of your business processes. How we got started on the journey, well, both Rapidmation and UiPath, I guess we both feel very blessed to work with some amazing companies in Australia and across the world. And really kind of some of our core ethos is to give back to the community. So we're always looking at kind of creative ways to find win-wins for everyone. And we came across the meetmagic initiative, right? It was a really amazing initiative. It allowed us to give back to the community and allowed us to kind of do things we needed to do every day. So I reached out to Andrea Fanuden-Smith, who's the UiPath marketing director here down in Australia. She absolutely loved the idea, and really that was the beginning of this great relationship. So here we are.
And it's been beautiful. How long? It's been a couple of years now, I think, right?
Mate, yeah, I mean, time goes quickly nowadays, but yeah, I think it's been at least a couple of years. As you said, I think we kind of started it when we came across it, we got onto it pretty quickly. So yeah, I think literally since the beginning of when you got started.
Literally, I think COVID was. I just presented this to the McGrath-Nicol team and Adrian, and COVID really was the time when I started doing all these LinkedIn lives, because you couldn't go anywhere. It was my 50th birthday on April the 29th, 2020, and we were in full-blown lockdown. Couldn't go out. You couldn't go outside in Sydney unless you were exercising. And so, of course, I got fit on the park, like everybody else. But it was crazy. I remember on my 50th birthday, I did a LinkedIn live, and we had 50 pictures in 50 minutes, just to keep the branding moving forward. And it was literally that kick that the business needed to get off the ground, because people couldn't go to conferences, they couldn't go to events, they couldn't do lunches. And so all of a sudden, how are you going to keep business going forward? So we actually literally kept business moving forward for a lot of our vendors that came on board at that time. And you know what, Sean, I can't help but thinking, I don't know if you're seeing this at the moment, but a lot of scrutiny is being given on conferences, and B2B marketing spend is getting scrutinized like next level, because you can't spend $60,000 on a conference and just get some scanned badges anymore. The CFO is not happy about that, right? So we're seeing a lot of companies now knocking on our door because they're not doing that conference, they're not doing that roundtable, because the ROI is not there. What's been your experience on, in terms of, you don't have to give the exact numbers, but in terms of invested dollars to outcomes, pipeline, that sort of stuff, what's it been like for you? I mean, this is completely unscripted. So warts and all, I don't care if you tell me it was shit. You can tell me it was rubbish. We'll take it. So what's been the experience in reality?
Yeah, well, first I'll go back a little bit, right? And I think the whole world of marketing has changed completely, right? And everyone, I mean, the way people buy nowadays is completely different to how they've done in the past. And I think COVID has just accelerated that, right? So I think people don't want to wake up every morning and get spammed with emails all the time. And I think this kind of what I call hyper-personalization of messages where you can connect directly with people, it's for a cause for good. I think it's an amazing way to kind of approach this new world. I mean, I guess I could say that definitely the return on investment that we've got from investing in the meetmagic platform has far exceeded anything that we've spent with you guys, right? So it's been beyond our expectations. We've met some amazing people through this initiative. I always say, regardless of whether it leads to work or not, I guess the worst case is that we've helped some really sick kids out somewhere in the world. And that's what we love about it, right? So sometimes it leads to some great projects, and we've got so many great examples of that. Sometimes it doesn't. But at the very minimum, we've helped some really sick kids out there, and we've connected with some amazing people.
How beautiful. I mean, this for me is like music to our ears. And we've got case studies and testimonials from people that have, and the words that you chose there about ROI exceeding expectations, we've heard that from at least 4 of our existing customers today who have said they've never seen ROI like it. And I think when it comes down to it, if you spent $25,000 on a roundtable or a I don't know, a conference, that's like the equivalent of 25 meetings with us. And honestly, if you can't find any conversations to continue in 25 meetings, I think you've got more than a meeting problem, right? It's like, but it is a crazy world out there, and what we've seen, that what really works. Have you when you open these meetings up, there's no PowerPoints, no demos, right?
Maybe, yeah. So we have a bit of a mojo of how we do it, but I think people are over being kind of sold to kind of and just to have stuff jammed down their throat. And I think, I mean, I always say to our team, right? It's kind of like if you go buy, I don't know, let's take a TV as an example today. Before you've walked into a store to buy that TV, you've already done all of your research. You figured out what the pros and cons are. Really, what you're looking for is you might be wanting to have a chat to a salesperson to give you kind of a very unique answer, and that's kind of the last part of your buying decision, right? Exactly the same, right? When we have some of these meetings, it's really about kind of showing what we've been able to do for other customers that's hyper personalized to exactly what their industry or what their niche may be out there. And it's really having a conversation about, do they have similar challenges and how we might be able to help them solve those challenges.
That's really interesting, because we call that the buyer's first world, and I think we've definitely in that space. We've just opened up the US market with Carissa, and one of the things that's evident up there is that there's lots of projects on the go, and this is, I guess, comes into segue into talking about where you're going with digital. But we're seeing lots of companies up there now that if they've got a cybersecurity project or a customer experience project or something that's going to be transforming their business, they have to go and meet with vendors. And so if they're going to meet with 4 or 5 vendors in a particular field, why not do it in such a way that it's got an impact, And it's just a logical conclusion that rather than going, I think the biggest thing that we've seen this year with conferences, and I've been to a lot of them, that I've just hung around and watched what's happening. The amount of this is funny, the amount of execs that when they come out of the room where the keynotes are, they take their badge off and they hide it.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to be harassed.
Yeah.
And then they tell me things like, I take it off because I don't want to be stalked around the conference. And they say the worst thing is, because if they've got a free ticket, the worst thing is the conference organizers giving the vendors or the exhibitors the list of emails. And so all of a sudden, those 30 exhibitors at the event are sending emails, and it's all of a sudden filling up the exec's inbox. And it honestly, Sean, when I say crazy, I got a call from one of our board members, is the CIO of a big superannuation firm. It's last Thursday. He said to me, Goffey, he said, it's 9 o'clock and I've got 29 invites in my inbox. 29. He said, I could eat and drink and have breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the next year and not have to pay for it. He said, I've got 6 emails internally that I've got to respond to. So 29 invites, people trying to get to him, and 6 work emails. This is the state of what's happening with automation, with emails, with conferences, and all this outbound. The world is crazy right now. And I think what we're doing with the platform is taking that noise away and making it easy for the execs to engage, because I think it's getting harder and harder.
Yeah, mate, absolutely right, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, I wake up every morning and I do the exact same, right? I just start junk mailing stuff that I don't want to know about, and again, it's because it's generic and it's not personalized to a problem. It's not personal. Whereas I guess the meetmagic initiative is the complete opposite of that, right? Hyper personalized, very personal, and it's just a great way to connect with people on kind of topics that you are really interested in connecting with kind of the subject matter experts on.
So what's Rapidmation seeing out there, Sean? Because obviously, I mean, so Warren Hill's one of our ambassadors in Melbourne. Shout out to Warren, wherever you are. He works for a company called AppScore, and they're doing a lot of development, program development, that sort of stuff. What are you seeing out there? Is there one particular thing that's going off the charts right now in terms of transformation that you're seeing?
Well, yeah, I guess we're all about something called intelligent automation, right? And maybe we'll get into that a bit later. It sometimes sounds a bit scary for people, but it's really about kind of helping companies firstly understand and then digitize and automate different kind of processes inside their organization. So what we're seeing out there at the moment, I mean, I don't think it's news to anyone that there's a massive people shortage at the moment, right? So good skills are really hard to come by. And I guess one of the ways that people are kind of looking to complement their most important assets, which is their people, is with automation to take care of the tedious, mundane, and repetitive tasks, right? So that's really where we come in as a business. We help companies kind of understand what their processes are, how they run, and then how we might be able to digitize and automate. I guess not so long ago, everyone was talking about AI and how this is going to take over jobs and how no one's going to have any jobs to do and how we're going to have stuff like universal basic income. It's quite funny, a few years later down the line, we're actually at the complete opposite end of that, right? Like we don't have enough people to do the jobs that we need them to do. And the only way that one of the only ways that companies can obviously grow is by using automation to take care of some of the stuff and use their people in the best way possible.
That's really interesting. We had a podcast with Paul Zara, the CEO of the Australian Retail Association, and he told us there's 40,000 open jobs in the retail market can't be filled.
It's crazy, right?
How would automation help with that? Because that's.
Yeah, mate. Well, absolutely. I mean, you just look at some of the things that have evolved in the retail space, right? So, I mean, not so long ago, we walked into a Coles or Woolworths here in Australia, and you went to a checkout where there was a person that was doing the checkout for you, right? They were scanning the goods and maybe packing the goods, and you paid for them. I mean, one of the ways in retail, look at the self-checkouts we have nowadays. I mean, I can't remember the last time I went to a grocery store and that I actually went to a physical human user to check out my goods, right? Yeah. So that's just an example of kind of everyday life where we use automation to come and help us along.
Are you seeing that in the retail space? I mean, Amazon's got its shops where you don't pick stuff up and walk out. Is that coming here, do you think?
Mate, absolutely, right. I mean, we do a lot of work around kind of artificial intelligence, which is kind of also a bit of a buzzword at the moment. But all of that AI, I mean, you think about all the cameras and the kind of the technology we have nowadays, it's pretty easy for artificial intelligence to look at, identify a human and figure out that human's touched a piece of like a good of some sorts, and then identify what that good might be. And you can use things like RFID tokens to figure out where in the store that person is. So that those Amazon Go stores, they're awesome, right? So I actually went to go check out one in the US when I was last there. But I mean, I definitely see that as the future of retail, where you walk into a store, pick up what you want, you simply walk out and it charges your credit card and you're good to go.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you've been following the whole central bank digital currency thing, you'll know that programmable money is on its way too, right?
Absolutely right. Yeah. So, I mean, I think there's been no shortage of kind of cryptocurrencies and blockchain and all of that in the press. And blockchain is an amazing technology, right? And that's going to be the future of many, many different, I guess, companies. Again, it kind of gets the rap and it gets branded with just cryptocurrency, but the blockchain technology is an amazing technology. Could be used for anything from, I don't know, let's take an example. You take your car for a service and you want to buy a car, you want to see exactly when that car had its service history. That can be done in the blockchain. Insurance claims could be done in the blockchain. Insurance policies could be done in the blockchain. I mean, there's some really exciting stuff coming out in that space as well.
How does customer experience fit into that? So I see a lot of companies at the moment, they're struggling with it. I mean, cybersecurity, I mean, don't get me started on this stuff. The amount of money being spent already on cybersecurity is kind of crazy. You know, I remember when I was in sales, we were always talking about perimeter-based security. You know, protect the firewalls and put a moat around your business. But then all of a sudden, they started coming in via helicopter and parachute, and so now they're talking about these. They're already in your house. They're already in the loft, and they're upstairs in your roof, and they've been there for 3 years, just rummaging around, having a look at your stuff, and you don't even know they're there.
Yeah.
Is this taking part in what you're seeing? It must be playing a huge part in transformation right now.
Absolutely, huge part, right? I mean, cybersecurity on any CIO that I speak with is kind of their number one at the moment. I mean, you just got to look around in the news, and obviously, I'm not mentioning any names, but big mobile providers, big health providers. I mean, it's everywhere, right? And there's lots of companies that have gone down, that have been threatened with these cybersecurity attacks, where they've obviously asked for ransoms. So I think no doubt that is going to be continually kind of a top 3 priority for any CIO.
Yeah, I think so. And then this whole AI thing, it freaks me out. I mean, I read yesterday, and I don't know how true this is. But now when you go to look at booking a flight, they're using AI to determine what your paying capability is and giving you and serving you a price based on what they think you can pay, not on based on what the cost of the flight is.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty crazy and it's pretty scary of some of the stuff that can be achieved. Whether companies are actually using that or not is maybe a different question, right? And I go back to the famous thing is that we start talking about dogs as an example, and then you start getting surfaced up ads on some of your social media around that. I mean, there's different two sides to that story. Whether they're doing that or not is interesting, but is it capable? Is technology capable of doing some of that stuff? Absolutely, right? If you can pick up patterns and analyze those patterns from a spending capability, maybe which online stores I might have visited before, absolutely, you can build up a profile of a person and then use that profile to kind of surface up different things to them at different times.
It's kind of crazy. Rebecca had a story there about any bank of stories that you might utilize to try and connect with customers. And I used to love these stories because when I was flogging Aruba, we'd always talk about wireless capability and access points. And when you humanize the conversation to an exec, and one of the stories I used to always tell was about access to the Wi-Fi. But once you've signed into the Wi-Fi once, you automatically re-authenticate back to the Wi-Fi again. And there's this one story in America where some disgruntled kid burnt down the old university hall, but his mobile phone was the last phone authenticated to that access point in that place where it burnt down at that time. So he had to put his hands up and confess to the story. So technology solved a crime in so many ways. Is there anything that you use that you've seen? I mean, UI automation. I mean, there must be so many stories out there where you've saved the world from something.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So I think everything at the heart of everything is data, right? So data, as they say, is the new oil, right? Data, if you've got a bank of data and you can analyze that data, there's some amazing insights you can obviously get out of that. But I think just to kind of, we're never short of a bank of stories, and we're lucky enough to interact with many, many amazing customers on a daily basis that come to us with different challenges. One that I'll allude to that's a bit more of a public story. It's published on our stories on our website. I had a gentleman phone me one Friday afternoon, pretty panicked. They just won this big deal. And really what they were going to go do is it was all around kind of house evaluations, right? And very quickly what their end goal was is they needed to go through and they needed to evaluate kind of a bunch of 20,000 different properties. But in order to do that, what they needed to do was they needed to get data on each of these properties, right? So where it's located, what the floor plan looked like, how many bedrooms, bathrooms, all of that type of thing. And what they thought when they signed up to this deal is they thought they were going to be provisioned with that data, and then they would just be able to give it out to their evaluators that could go and actually do the evaluations on that. Very quickly, they realized the organization that they won the deal off was not going to provide them that data. So you think now I've got 20-odd thousand properties, and what I need to do is I need to go download data. Imagine going onto like realestate.com.au or domain.com.au and downloading all of that data. But I need to do that 20,000 times, and the clock is ticking in terms of when I need to get my evaluators out there. So he phoned me on a Friday, pretty panicked. I said to him, I'll come see you first thing on the Monday morning. Walked into his office about 8 a.m. here in Sydney, just on George Street. And I said to him, well, listen, some good news is that I can solve your problem pretty easily for you using something called robotic process automation. Now, that sounds a little bit scary. It's not scary. It's not the Terminator style bots that are going to take over the world. It's really these little software bots that sit on your machine or sit on a server inside your environment. And what you can do is you can teach these bots to do the clicks that you and I as humans would do across any screen. So I chatted to this gent. I said to him, listen, I can provision a team pretty quickly. His only other option at that stage was to spin a massive offshore team of about 30 people to start manually collecting this data. He had already run the numbers, and he knew it was going to take him 4 weeks to go get that data, which would put him out of contract, and he would actually be in breach of that contract. I provisioned up a team kind of on the Tuesday or Wednesday. We developed a little application, and a few days later, we had downloaded all 20,000 kind of different pieces of information. We've got our little software bot to go and actually browse that data, download it, save it, store it securely, and then actually push it into the evaluation system so that his evaluation team had the tasks they needed to do with all of the data under their thumb.
Wow. I mean, and they would have never been able to do that. There's no way they'd have been able to solve that problem.
Never. Yeah.
So the long and short of it is, you probably helped him keep his job.
But I mean, it sounds a bit harsh, but yeah, absolutely. I mean, they would have been in breach of contract, right? So absolutely, I think it was an example of a great story where they couldn't have solved that problem without some sort of automation to help their people download and fetch all of that data for them.
What's an example of bad automation, stuff that you shouldn't automate? Because there's got to be stuff out. Honestly, email automation, deadly right now. I reckon that is just the worst invention. If I see another MailChimp advert, I just want to vomit at the screen, because I think it's that they're causing problems in people's inboxes right now. And the problem is, email is still the best form of communicating with people. But the problem is, of course, people have been taught not to click on shit anymore. So don't click on an email if you don't know who it's from. And now Google are starting to classify anything that's got a link in it as phishing, and so they're pushing it immediately into junk. So your emails are not even making it anymore.
Yeah.
And of course, you don't click on any text message that you get because you've been told not to, because it might be a scam.
Yeah.
So it's now all of a sudden they're not answering their phones unless they know who the number's from. So you can't email them. You can't. Give us an example of how you're going to solve that problem. Because I tell you what, if you can solve that for us, I'll give you the business all day long.
Yeah. I mean, I think the famous saying goes, right, it's not marketing when it's useful to someone, right? So if I'm just going to shotgun a message out to 1,000 people, which is kind of your MailChimp example, or your text message example, or a random phone call. I mean, I'm sure you get the same as me, random phone calls from unknown numbers. I don't even answer them anymore, right? So I think the problem is it's not an easy one to solve, but really you need to make it hyper personalized and very relevant to that person, right? Because then it's no longer marketing. Then it's actually, well, I'm interested in that and I'm keen to find out more information on it. And if I go back to my analogy earlier, by the time you walk into the store, you already have 80% of the information. You're looking for that 20% of very niche knowledge. So it's certainly an interesting mix, and that's why the world of marketing has 100% changed over the last few years. And again, that's kind of why one of the kind of strategies we use is the meetmagic platform, which is a great way to connect with people.
Which I think for us, when we look at the problems that we're solving for marketing teams, is traditionally it was slow, costly, and unpredictable to get access to meetings. And we've made it the opposite of that. We've made it quick, low cost, and predictable as best we can. And it's much better than what it was. But I think for the execs, there's also a great problems that we're solving for them, giving them access to the vendors to be able to solve problems like you've got here. Whatever problem it is you're trying to solve, there's probably a vendor on the platform that you can connect with and have a great conversation with. And like you say, we absolutely mandate no selling in these meetings. And we've had a couple of experiences where the experience of the exec's not been that good, because the salesperson has turned up and opened up a demo or opened up a laptop, and they're only 45-minute meetings, and you just burnt 40 minutes of that meeting talking through a PowerPoint presentation. It's not the worst thing you could do. There's no connection there. You've missed an opportunity to actually connect with an exec and have a great conversation, because regardless of the outcome of the meeting, there's going to be some positive stuff, whether you've offset carbon, CO2, because we can now do that on the blockchain through our meetings, or whether it's sick kids for Starlight or feeding families in Singapore. There's always going to be a positive outcome. But I think you're right that we've discovered that if you walk in, and there's a couple of execs out there who don't do vendor meetings anymore unless they're through us, which is it's because they can they're using the meetings basically to understand how to solve problems in their current infrastructure, but they're also, and this was the really interesting thing that I picked up, they're using it to look at their future state infrastructure. So they'll come and talk to people like you at Rapidmation and say, what's happening in this space? And then they go back internally and use that information to attract talent into the business.
Yeah.
So this shortage of talent that's out there, these meetings become a great source of information which they're using to attract talent into the business. And that'd be completely shot if you walked in there and did a demo and started pitching product.
Mate, absolutely right. I mean, you just think about kind of, and we often hear in the press about the millennials and they want to work for people with purpose. But what we're honestly seeing out there in the workforce is if you're a company that's stuck on kind of archaic technology where it's just really hard to do, and you're expecting people to come in and do a lot of the tedious, mundane, and repetitive work, lifting and shifting, copy and pasting of data. That is a massive negative for many of these people coming into the workforce, right? And again, because there are so many companies that are now digitally born and using stuff like intelligent automation to get a competitive advantage, it's a lot more enticing, especially where there's a people shortage, for these people to come into businesses where they're using some pretty slick technology, where they're using automation to its advantage and really allowing these people to thrive rather than do any of this tedious, mundane, repetitive stuff.
Yeah, totally. Honestly, I think even for us as a business, Sean, our goal is to 80% automate.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge, right? How do we take all the things that we're doing and make it automate, automate 80% of it? Rachel's got a great question here about some of the challenges that customers are currently facing and around the pandemic and how that's impacted the needs of the clients. Have you got anything that you can share in that space?
Yeah, absolutely right. So again, let's go back to the pandemic. So COVID hit, right? And we do a lot of work in many different verticals. One of the ones we're really, really strong is in insurance. We do a heap of work across the insurance space. We're working with an insurance broker and we're automating a specific process for them, which was going really well. They had an offshore team that was based in the Philippines, and really this Philippines team was kind of managing email comms coming into the business, right? So figuring out the emails that came in, reallocating those tasks to different people in the team. They're receiving hundreds, if not thousands, of emails on any given day, right? So overnight, what happened is the Philippines got hit up pretty hard with COVID. Unfortunately, maybe a little bit different to Australia. Those people needed to work from home, but perhaps didn't have the capability to work from home, right? They weren't set up and they didn't have the laptops and maybe internet access and all of those things. So pretty much overnight, this pretty key role for this company got switched off. Right now, you can imagine if you're receiving hundreds, if not thousands, of emails every day from customers, and you're talking about customer service, and now you need to kind of respin up a whole lot of people inside Australia to handle that problem. That's not a one that you can solve overnight. Your kind of customer retention rates go through the floor. People are getting grumpy. They're not getting what they need to do. And pretty much very quickly, what we managed to do for this customer is we used, again, the UiPath platform and robotic process automation. We built a little bot that we put over the email inbox. What this bot did, it just sat there and it worked 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. As soon as a new email came in, this bot woke up. It used some pretty cool artificial intelligence to figure out what kind of that person was actually asking for. And then depending on what their request was, we automated a number of tasks based off of the back of that. And in so doing, we helped that company literally survive and then thrive through the pandemic, right? If they didn't have the ability to use automation, they could have lost heaps and heaps of their customers. But in using automation, they supplemented their people. They allowed their people to work on higher value work and kind of remove those tedious, mundane, and repetitive tasks.
I mean, for us, we look at things like, so we're a two-sided marketplace, and we've got lots of vendors knocking on our doors every day to come and get meetings because they're struggling to get meetings. One of the key challenges for us right now is getting the execs side of the platform built up. So we want 10,000 execs to sign up. So our job in everything that we do is to go and get execs to come on board. We've had a couple, 2 or 3, I think, sign up today from, I think, ZipPay and Airwallets and a few others, which is amazing. And it really makes me happy inside when I see execs coming on board, because I know from LinkedIn, from speaking to LinkedIn, that volunteering and giving back to society is now seen from hiring managers as just as important as your work experience, because it's good for their brand to hire people that are actually volunteering in the community. But of course, a lot of execs just don't have the time to go volunteering. So we become a viable option for them to give back to society. It's measurable. They can, some execs have done 20 meetings, and those 20 meetings have raised $15,000, and that $15,000 has helped hundreds and hundreds of kids, or amazing stuff, right? So it's measurable, and they feel great about it, and there's a good story there for business. How would we be able to use automation? And this is really interesting, to try and reach out to execs who are philanthropic in mind, that are looking for ways to give back but don't know how to. Is there a way you can automate the move? Because this is a massive problem for us to solve, and if you can solve that problem, it's finding them. It's a manual process today, and it's tedious and slow, and we can go and spend $1 million on marketing, but we don't have $1 million. It's a chicken and the egg thing.
Yeah. Well, I guess as we've discussed, right, the automation bit where it could come in there, of course, you could try go MailChimp them and send them text messages and call them, but that's not going to work, right? But one idea might be, right, imagine you've got a list of execs on a specific platform. That could be any platform you like. Imagine you built a little software bot that woke up and it plugged in some search details or terms of maybe industries or job roles or something that you're looking to find. And instead of a human user going through and doing all of those clicks, maybe perhaps you automated that. But one of the parts that you automated was to find out perhaps which communities or which industry associations or different things that they might be involved in. That could be an event they might be going to or something like that. And when you actually got to that event or industry association, you connected with them on a human level to say to them, hey guys, this is something that we're doing. We believe this could have really good value for you. And when it's that hyper personalized message, maybe use the automation to do the heavy lifting and whittle down to where you might find those people, but then have a real human connection. That might be an example of a good way to be able to do it.
That's really exciting. We should talk about that because I think that's a great opportunity for us to go. And that's our biggest problem. You know, yeah. I know if we've got 10,000 execs on our platform and just 10% of them are taking one meeting once a month, that's a lot of goodness happening all around the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not only is it a great business, but it's a lot of impact being made. Now we've been here for 30 minutes, 36 minutes, Sean. We could like keep talking forever. But one of the things that I want to do with our clients is because we say no selling on the platform. Don't go in there and sell products, but we want to give you an opportunity to sell your product because you've got products and you've got services, and it's important that you be able to get that out, but in the right way. So I think one of the ideas on the platform that we're going to build is the vendors can have a 1-minute pitch on what they do. And I want just imagine you're an exec, you sign up to the platform, you log in, you told us you're interested in automation, and all of a sudden you've got 4 videos to watch from vendors that are giving their 1-minute pitch, and they can just watch those videos and go, yep, Sean, you're cool, come here, click.
Yeah.
And you can bring your dog with you.
Yeah. He's barking in the background, yeah.
So to finish up, I would love you to give us the rapid. Once your dog's, I think your dog wants to give the pitch for you.
There you go. He's gone outside. Sorry. There you go.
That's really cool. That's, you know what, Vicky, our head of customer experience, she turns up with 2 kids on her lap. Sometimes they become part of the team.
Yeah, they do, right? They do, and you can hear him barking. There's obviously someone that's arrived at the gate, but all good, all good.
You need to go sort it out. It's totally okay. This is live TV. It's totally fine. Happens all the time.
All good, mate. All good. He should be out shortly, so all good.
So yeah, so I would love to get the 1-minute Rapidmation pitch. So get the story out for us.
Yeah, absolutely, right. So firstly, I love the idea of the kind of the 1-minute pitch, right? Because firstly, it kind of tells someone how long they can expect to stay and listen and get some value out of it. But yeah, so here's the 1-minute kind of elevator pitch on all things kind of Rapidmation, right? So I guess here at Rapidmation, we're all about all things intelligent automation. While intelligent automation may sound a little scary to many people, essentially what it means is that we're here to help companies understand, digitize, and automate different of their business processes. We've got a range of different tools in our intelligent automation toolbox. And depending on kind of what outcome we're looking to deliver for that customer, we might use kind of one or more of those tools and combine them together to deliver beyond expectation. We often say that automation is all about people and how we help people do more with less. And really the outcome that we deliver for customers is we help free up time for their greatest assets, which is their people, from that tedious, mundane, repetitive work, and we allow those users to perform higher value work. And really what that leads to, it leads to kind of us automating the ordinary and allows their people to do and unleash their extraordinary. We let those software bots do the work and we let people thrive. And just to kind of bring that home, some of the solutions that we might implement for customers, we might implement kind of intelligent accounts payable. So take care of all extracting of data of invoices and pushing that into a system. It could be something as simple as an expense claim. It could be an employee onboarding or a customer onboarding process. It could be a bank account reconciliation process. It could be lifting and shifting of data. It could even be a health and safety app. But really the automation opportunities are endless, and it really depends on what you're looking to do. But one way to do it is through intelligent automation.
I actually think that's really good. I actually think what you're doing is relieving people of anxiety. You know, they've all got a job to do.
Yeah.
And their job is to deliver on what they're promised, them, not just to themselves but to the company. And I think when I think about how transformation is out there, I mean, there's a lot of job changes with people that are trying to deliver projects, but it's not working for whatever reason. So I think what you're doing is very much similar to what Uber did with their app. Before, previous to Uber, you'd order a taxi on the phone and you wouldn't know where that taxi was, and then you call the taxi company and they get on the CB radio and they call the taxi and say, "Where are you?" And I'm just around the corner. And then you go outside in the rain with your umbrella looking for the taxi, you won't be able to find it, and then you're running late, so your anxiety levels are going through the roof. And then all of a sudden Uber comes along with a little map and a car, and all of a sudden your anxiety is gone. I think you're doing something similar with automation, because it's solving problems, but you often don't know what those problems are until you've come along and said, this is what you do. Yeah. And so I think there's something about the reframing. We're trying to reframe what meetings are, because when you hear the word meeting, you go, oh, not again. So we're trying to reframe that. And often that experience is just a very simple reframing. It could be 4 words that reframe that whole experience. And I'll leave you with this one. This is what Rory Sutherland, the chairman of Ogilvy, talks about. He talks about one of the biggest reframing events was the Eurostar in the UK. People were complaining about how long it took to get to France, and the English are like, we're always whinging and moaning. And so they said, well, okay, well, let's just spend £5 billion and upgrade the train to be 10% faster. And Rory said, well, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just make the experience better? So put some Wi-Fi on there, put something that you can work, maybe put some tables so you can work flat and bring your laptop, or put some nice food. He said, or even better, why don't you hire for £1 million the world's top models to serve French champagne up and down the train? He said, I'll guarantee they'll want it to go slower.
Yeah.
So I think what you're doing is you've got an amazing company that's reinventing almost how business is being done, and that's relieving anxiety. And I just want to say, on behalf of the team, from Rapidmation, we're very grateful for your support. We are literally, we love having you as a partner, and I think we should do some more. And I think if you can help us with that problem that we've got, let's talk about that, because that's a great conversation to have for us.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. And just to finish off with is, I mean, it's funny, once we kind of put some of these automations in, very quickly, these software bots that we implement, they become kind of everyone's best friend, because it removes that anxiety. It takes care of all that tedious, mundane, repetitive. Imagine end of month, and now you thought you'd have to crank through 12, 14-hour days to get through the work, where all of a sudden now your software bot helps you out, do some of that tedious, mundane, repetitive. Absolutely. Yep. Reduces anxiety, and very quickly kind of some of these software bots becomes everyone's best friend, because it allows them to kind of free up some of their time and perform that higher value work.
Yeah. I mean, if I was an exec, the first person I'd be going to, I've got a self-interest in making sure that I do my job good. That's all I care about, delivering a good job to make so I can keep my job. So I'd be looking for ways to solve those problems, and you've absolutely got angles for them to solve their problems, and it's in such a way that it's obviously doing good for them and for their company. So good job, Sean. Thanks for coming on and being our guest.
Yeah, Carl, great to chat. Thanks for inviting me along for a bit of a chinwag, and looking forward to continuing the great partnership with you guys.
Absolutely. Isn't it great how we can just do this without even no script? I think when you script it just turns to shit.
Yeah. Yeah, all
good. You're Melbourne based, aren't you?
Sydney based, yes. I'm up in Sydney. Our team's kind of across Australia, but yeah, I'm based in Sydney. So definitely we'll catch up sometime soon in Sydney.
We have to do that. We have to do that for coffee, or at least very, very soon.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Take care. Thanks, everyone. See you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Carl. See ya.